Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk specifically about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition's wealth feat. Alright, so I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I think Dungeons & Dragons, if you think about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and you think about all the people who play it in America, okay, I think it is far more likely that a Dungeons & Dragons player or Dungeon Master has more money than the average American than has less. And actually, I would say I think that generally they have a lot more money, like considerably more. I would say that I think a lot of people who play Dungeons and Dragons are wealthy. Okay, now why is this? Okay, now, but first of all, you know, as soon as you say anything definitively on the internet, they're going to say, "Where's your report?" Right? Well, first of all, one thing I think is really interesting is we now live in a time where there's more ability than ever to collect data, and every single day less ability to actually get any information. Because one of the things that's happened is actually a candidate that I was really huge fan of, Andrew Yang, said, "Today's wealth is data," right? And so, here's a perfect example. For decades, I followed the values of every single. Here you go. Even 2 years ago, if you checked, you could find exactly how much money every single movie made. Like literally the Sunday afternoon on the weekend of the release drop, you would know exactly how much money was there. Right now, the numbers are all over. We have more ability to collect the data, and less people know the information than ever before, right? So basically, everything now has to be, unless you're, actually, it doesn't matter who you are, right? Like, everything has to be determined by patterns. And I think pretty much everything. You have to gather data from patterns now, right? Maybe of course, maybe in some commercial context, there might be a small sliver where a small group of people can gather data, get real answers, but they're not going to be able to distribute those answers, not to anybody really. So overall, when you're talking and saying, "Hey, what's the shape of this thing?" you just need to recognize patterns, okay? And of course, there's and I'm sharing what I'm seeing, but I throw a broad net. I'm trying to connect and see, in other areas, right? And the more I look at it, the more I think the people who play Dungeons & Dragons are quite wealthy, right? So what would be some of the clues for this? Well, there's a lot, right? So one, the fact that, you could just see it, like the miniatures that we play. Actually, you could see it everywhere, right? The books we read are full color now. They're no longer black and white, okay? The miniatures we deal with. There's a new miniature coming out that is, the largest scale dragon that is 2 feet wide and over 1 foot tall. It takes money. Dice. They are literally making dice out of mammoth bone now, right? Every gaming tables. Like, it's very, like, you can't spin around and throw a rock, made of foam on YouTube and not hit some schmuck showing a $5,000-$10,000 gaming table, right? It's everywhere, right? Nerd Immersion just got one, right? It's like a badge on, not even a badge of honor, it's just a badge, right? It's like half the YouTube channels out there have these super dope, $5,000-$10,000 gaming tables. There's an entire company that makes $5,000 to $10,000 gaming tables for tabletop role-playing games. It's incredible, right? So if you look at the industry, there's definitely wealth there. There really is considerable wealth in the game, right? But the reason why I want to start talking about this is I don't think it's talked about at all, right? The other thing is why? Why does Dungeons & Dragons have a lot of wealthy patrons, a lot of wealthy participants? Why are dungeon masters and players generally wealthy, right? Well, it's super simple. 750 pages to play the game. If you have the wherewithal to learn how to play Dungeons & Dragons at any type of depth or intensity, you're going to be able to break this world, right? Like, people just don't read 750 pages anymore, right? But currently, Dungeons & Dragons demands it, right? It says, if you want to be good at this game, you're going to read the MM, you're going to read the DMG, and you're going to read the PHP. And frankly, you ain't going to stop there, right? And there's just no one today who has the tolerance for complexity, the tolerance for abstraction, the tolerance for an incredibly divided community, right? And the tolerance for all the reading that this game, all the reading and the math, right? Arbitrarily complex math, right? This is a map to wealth. If you have a high tolerance for complexity, if you have a high tolerance for arbitrarily complex math, if you have a high tolerance for minutia, right? And I'm talking deep minutia, thousands of pages of minutia, you will be wealthy, right? And the reason why is there's just a million industries in the world that are looking for exactly that type of person, because data is the new currency, right? And getting that data requires attention to detail, and it requires every single thing you need to be a good dungeon master and a good player, right? So once we acknowledge that Dungeons and Dragons really does have a wealth fee, the game itself has a wealthy player base, it then brings up quite a few questions I think are not being discussed overall in the D&D community sphere that we should start asking and starting to answer. Now, again, I don't have some study in hand saying that the D&D players are wealthy, but boy, do I have a lot. I just look around, right? Like, it's you gonna one. It ain't hard to find wealthy D&D players. I can show you a lot of them. It is hard to find people who do not have wealth, right? And so, right there, right? Like, it's just. Now, with that said, I'm willing to be corrected. If you think there's evidence that there are macro level 51% or more of the D&D players have less money than most people in America, I'd love to hear any patterns you see that make you believe that. Love to hear it. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.